Thank you, everyone, for coming out and being here today with us at Temple Buddhist Center. And we also want to welcome everybody joining us at home, all of our folks joining us from all around the world on our live stream. And I wanted to, I actually really wanted to talk about my experience at Vajravidya Monastery last week. Many of you know that I've been gone for a week believe it or not, we had 24 members of our Sangha that were there. So we really had quite the showing at the monastery, and it was really an amazing experience. And I do want to talk about that and share that with you. However, that will have to be on my next talk, because today, well, we have to have the talk today. The talk. And although I don't think there's too many birds or bees involved in this one, we do need to talk, because I've been getting a lot of emails and text messages, and in my discussions with members of the Sangha on a one-to-one basis, a lot of folks are feeling a lot of anxiety and fear around the upcoming election. So I felt like this was more in line with the pulse of the Sangha to talk a little bit about fear and anxiety as a whole today with everybody, and then I will share the secrets of enlightenment with you next time. So again, yes, good morning, everyone. It is very nice to be back, and even if you are, because we have, our Sangha is truly amazing. We have folks that have been practicing for 60, 70, 80 years, and we have folks who've just started. We have a wonderful mix of folks from so many different backgrounds and orientations and levels of practice. So even if you are equanimous about the election, most of us are still feeling the atmosphere of fear and animosity surrounding politics here in the United States. And more broadly, the distress about violence and natural disasters playing out globally. Now, it is intelligent to feel fear. Okay, so everyone knows, I don't think anybody here would have a problem realizing that fear is a very natural response in human beings. And so it is intelligent to feel fear. We need to actively engage and respond to the real and immediate dangers of these times. And our best responses to fear will arise when we are not in the grip of it. I'll say that one more time. Our best response to fear is when we are not in the grip of it. So many wonderful things have been happening to TBC and also for myself. Just when I got back Tuesday from the retreat in Colorado, I was visited by a nomadic monk. Yes, I know this sounds like a Disney movie of some sort, but it's not. This stuff is really happening. And his name is the Venerable Su Sung, and he's a delightful individual. He practices in the Korean Zen tradition, and he's traveling all around the United States. He's got a really cool little 24-foot Class C mobile home that he drives around, and he's stopping by and visiting Sanghas all over the country, because he's kind of doing some research on how the Dharma is being disseminated throughout the United States. And so I was visited by him Tuesday, and he and I had tea, and we talked for about an hour and a half. And in the course of our discussion, he shared with me a little story that I felt was really apropos to our discussion today. And this story is basically, and I believe it was a true story that he shared with me, and it's the story about a monk who was captured in a different country, who was captured by a rival political group. And this monk, as many people were, was tortured during the time of his stay there. And when he was released, he shared with his community and his teachers and his Sangha that his worst fear during this time when he was being tortured, his worst fear was that he was going to lose compassion for his captors. Can you feel that? Whew. I told him we have to stop for a moment. I need to just kind of process that. What an amazing depth of practice and a level that as practitioners, some here are at, and many of us are still working towards. But it fits perfectly in with this discussion today about fear and anxiety. Fear is an emotion that can be spoken of in two ways. The most common wording around fear is usually associated with, of course, panic, anxiety, worry, rumination, and I think we can all relate to that. It is considered a negative emotion because it feels so unpleasant. And it is often based on unrealistic thinking. Now, from a Buddhist viewpoint, this kind of fear causes suffering because it is based on exaggeration, future thinking, self-preoccupation, and it leads a person to engage in actions or making decisions that are unskillful and usually create more fear. Another kind of fear has to it an element of wisdom. It is an awareness of possible dangers that causes us to exercise caution. While this fear may sometimes still feel unpleasant, it is useful. It is useful and it is free from the emotional torment of this more common and ordinary fear. For example, awareness that you live in an area that is prone to flooding encourages people to make and to heed building codes, to promote and cultivate areas to keep them safe from erosion. People lay down careful plans and take precautions without being immersed in panic. This wisdom fear is also at work when we, say, for example, merge onto a highway, aware of the danger of other vehicles driving at high speeds. Well, okay, maniacal speeds. But anyway, we are aware of other vehicles around us, and so therefore we take proper precautions. And so we drive more carefully. Parents instill in young children a respectful fear of matches or lighters, things that make fire. So in the examples that I just shared with you, fear is useful and is really not so painful, is it? The difference between afflictive fear and wisdom fear is the presence or the absence of exaggeration. When we are attuned to the facts of a situation, fear is not distorted. But when we exaggerate some aspect of the situation, fear is unrealistic and leads to suffering. Certain kinds of meditation practices that are or become available to us along the stages of the path are designed to arouse wisdom fear in us. So say, for example, when we meditate on awareness of cyclic existence, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. In the Buddhist practice, the opposite of death is not life. The opposite of death is birth. Life is eternal. We don't have a life. We are life. That's why there's nothing to fear. But when we bring a meditation on the awareness of cyclic existence, it can arouse that kind of wisdom fear. Because then when we meditate upon that, it motivates us to practice the path in order to liberate ourselves and our loved ones and our community and indeed the entire world from samsaric suffering. Samsaric suffering, that fear of death on a mortal level, on a worldly level, not realizing who we truly are. In the same way, meditation on death is meant to provoke not an emotional, panicky fear of death, which is, of course, of no benefit or use whatsoever, but a wise awareness of our mortality. This leads us to set good priorities in life, to abandon harmful actions and live ethically and kindly, bringing about understanding and bringing about compassion for all those beings around us. And even regardless of the kind of fear that is arising within you, the practice itself, our practice, provides us with guidance, embracing the truth of what has arisen in this moment. You see, there are no bad emotions because they all bring gifts of awakening if you can stay with it long enough. What do I mean by that? It is so natural for our egoic mind states to protect us from pain of any kind, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. It is our ego's job to protect us from that. But as practitioners, we are transcending and including the egoic mind, realizing that there's nothing to fear. So when I say that from this practice, as we cultivate this and we bring about a wise and a healthy understanding, this leads us to priorities in our life. And as we bring about an understanding of the truth of who we are, our practice provides us with these foundational understandings of taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, of realizing, when I say the Buddha, realizing the truth of who we are, our consciousness, our awareness, that which can never die, that which was never born and will never die, the truth of who we are. So this awareness of our mortality, of the mortal aspect, leads us to setting good priorities in life, abandoning harmful actions, and living ethically. All of these things are working in sort of a conspiracy for awakening. These emotions bring with them a gift that when we can stay with it long enough, it opens for us this deeper understanding. I believe that as Buddhist practitioners, we are built for times like these. This is what we've been practicing, maybe for decades, maybe for a few weeks. This seeing into the worldly concerns around praise and blame, fame and insignificance, gain and loss, and pain and pleasure, how so many are caught on this roller coaster, and how we are bringing an awareness to the true nature of existence in this realm, how suffering is completely optional. You can be chasing these things or grasping and clinging to them, or you can live life with an open palm and just being present with the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows. We stop tearing at the world, trying to get it to do whatever is in our head. This idealism, right? And so as Buddhists, we are built for this. So I was sitting with my own anxiety over the upcoming election and over all of the reports about this and that. Oh my gosh, the 24-hour news cycle is exploding. And so I sat with my own anxiety around this, and it was really a profound experience because I was able to see, to notice, to embody a number of insights that could only arise when we get very, very still. When we turn off all the screens and sit in the perfect silence and take what Jack Kornfield calls the noble one seat. In this sacred place, I saw how my mind was turning to hope, or as one commentator put it, hopium. As I was turning to hope, thoughts like, well, this won't happen again, or our justice system will prevail. And this set up friction between my thoughts and what I was actually feeling in my body. This friction between the two, guess what? Only exacerbated more fear, because it was like, it's friction, it's tension. While in meditation, I could see how my fear was creating an appetite for things that would feed the fear, such as 24-hour news cycles, ridiculous poll numbers from every kind of a poll. I'm hearing about polls that I've never even heard of before showing up. And then, of course, my favorite, the tennis match between all the legal challenges, right? Oh, my side won. Oh, the other guys won. Oh, my side lost. Yay, they lost. Well, even right there, you see the cultivation of delusion. There is no other side. It's a delusion. But yet, here's all these legal battles proving that there's another side because somebody had to lose, somebody had to win, right? It's a delusion. And in speaking with other members of the Sangha, it was fascinating because they're having many of the same kinds of experiences. Some of them shared with me that they could see that there was a subtle belief system going on. When they were sitting in meditation, they would share with me, I saw this subtle belief system going on that I'm not doing enough, or that my vote's not going to matter, so why bother? Others shared with me that they saw this mental tagline that you have to be furious and outraged in order to affect positive change within the community. Where's that written? Where's it written that you have to be angry to take action? Where's it written that you have to be furious in order to have a rational discussion with somebody about some facts of some sort? Separation and division are mental states brought about by fear. The egoic mind is trying to figure out, okay, who's going to hurt me? Who is the enemy and who's the friend? Again, a delusion. Our heart moves us to relieve the suffering and division and to build bridges. All of these delusions are being revealed when we can find stillness, when we can rest in quiet solitude or in Sangha together. When we rest in that heart space, it is able to see the subtle little delusions that are being cultivated by the media, by our echo chambers. Is it not true that we've got little groups of friends that are there to rally around us as soon as we say a certain name? And that's on both sides. And there's the sides again. There's the division and the separation. Oh, I want to rally and talk with my buddies because they know exactly what's right, because we all say it together. So if we're all right, then certainly it must be right. But this caught up with right and wrong completely dismisses what our heart is trying to tell us. It's caught up in the head. I mean, is it not true that come Wednesday morning, you will do what you have always done, the best you can with what you have to work with, and with a kind and a caring heart, because that's who you are. We use our imagination from this point to cultivate wholesome ways of turning fear energy into conscious activism. Conscious activism. Whether that is working at a call center, knocking on doors, working at a shelter, helping neighbors, or volunteering at your local Buddhist temple, or even coming up with ways to diffuse. What's he talking about? Coming up with ways to diffuse. I was watching a video last week before I left for the retreat, and in this video, there was a couple that was attending a school board meeting somewhere in the United States. And they stood up and began disrupting the school board meeting, yelling and screaming all kinds of things. And the response from the room and the other people in the room really turned against them. It was very nasty. It hurt my heart to watch what was going on. And so these people, the two that were there, started yelling things, and the room started yelling at them, and it just kind of kept sort of digressing. And I thought for a moment, what would I do? What would I do if I were there? And in that moment, the first thing that came up is I began to sing. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed your grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Maybe they would sing along. And how can we hate when we're all singing together? This is what the heart is trying to impart to us, to share with us. Not what kinds of terrible things can I say to them to try to get them to stop or leave, which is most likely exactly what they're wanting, because then they can videotape it and share it with all of their friends and show and see how persecuted we are. It's a trick. It's a trap. But the heart won't fall into it like the head will. The head will fall into those traps. The heart will not, because it doesn't understand that kind of language. It doesn't understand that kind of feelings. You see, the trick is to stay open, loving through it all. Like the monk in the opening story that I shared with you, the strength of the spiritual warrior is not about going to heaven or a place that is really, really comfortable, or wanting to find a place where everything's okay, or is always looking for a way to have pleasure and avoid pain. These are all how we stay in samsara. As long as we believe that there is something that will permanently satisfy our hunger for security, then suffering is inevitable. And so the truth is that things are always in transition. We are always in transition. There never has been anything to hold on to. There is nothing to hold on to now, and nothing to hold on to is the root of happiness. Because we're no longer attached, we're no longer clinging. We're no longer pushing anything, anyone away. We are simply present. It's not clinging, it's not holding on to, it's just open. And so the root of happiness is nothing to hold on to. If we allow ourselves to rest here in nothing to hold on to, then what we find is a tender, non-aggressive, open-ended state of affairs. And this is where the path of fearlessness lies. Let's walk it together.